Yep, it is time to get dangerous. Why? Because we're going to untraumatize some kids. Because you know what I found? You know what I found
What?
over this week?
What?
I finally found the episode where Big Bird really proved to everybody that Mr. Snuffleupagus is
Snuffleupagus is
real.
real. Yeah.
I have that already queued up. So everybody, welcome to Comic Book Spectrum. We're Sans Cliff. I was quite certain that this was going to be his another week on, but it could be his week off.
It's his week off. He was on vacation,
Okay,
and then the first week of his vacation, he was with us. The second week, he wasn't, and then he was with us this past week. So I think,
right. 'Cause last week was Thanksgiving week.
yeah. So the week before that, he was with us, and
Right.
then he's off this week,
It
and
is.
he'll
It
be
is
back
the
next week.
second week. It's the second week of December. So yeah, this makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yes.
It makes sense. But nevertheless, I hear through a certain dead birdie that you about to rant about something.
You want to do? You want to do? Big Bird, and
Yeah,
then
yeah. Let's go
I'll
ahead
do the rant.
and set this thing up here.
Okay.
And I'm going to set it up like no tomorrow here. There's a reason why us Gen Xers are so well balanced, at least somewhat when it comes to mental health wise. Because when you grow up and you watch things like Sesame Street, and one of the things that happened on Sesame Street is a lot of people really discounted Big Bird because Big Bird doesn't tell any lies whatsoever.
Yes.
So when he finally met Mr. Snuffleupagus, everybody was getting into that quagmire of like, well, Big Bird doesn't lie, but maybe it's his imaginary friend, and maybe we should go along with it. And the more he tried to get people to see Mr. Snuffleupagus, the more Mr. Snuffleupagus just walks away or does something else. And by the time he gets back, there's never there. So people actually started thinking that it was his imaginary friend. It was okay. His imagination is getting to him and everything to that magnitude.
Or Big Bird.
This went on for what, a season
Yeah.
before it got to the point where it was so traumatizing. And I finally found the episode where everybody finally gets to meet Mr. Snuffleupagus. Now, we get to see the anguish that Big Bird goes through because they actually played out everything. Because it's like time after time after time after time after time. And now he got everybody on Sesame Street to finally meet him. The first time around, Snuffy went to do something else, and everybody's like, yeah, this, it's like, it's never going to happen. There's, we just got to let it be, let it be.
Oh, Big
Big
Bird.
Bird's like, I'm not having it. And I know that this had to happen back in the middle 80s. You want to know how I know it had to be in the middle 80s?
How
We
old
had
are you?
Elmo.
Elmo. Yes.
So without further ado,
Elmo believe Big Bird.
we're going to see, hopefully in this short entirety, the formal introduction of Mr. Snuffleupagus to the Sesame Street mythos.
Snuffleupagus is on his way, Elmo. Now this is it. Remember, we have to cooperate. Oh, yes, cooperate. Oh, yeah. Hey. Now, you hold Snuffy's snuffle and make sure he doesn't get away. And then I'll go yell the secret word, food. Yeah, Elmo holds Snuffle. And don't let go until all the grown-ups come and see him, okay? Don't worry, Big Bird. Elmo not let go. No.
Oh, hello, Bird.
Hello, Snuffy. Say hello to my little pal, Elmo here.
Where? Oh, hello, Elmo. Pleased to meet you.
Woo! Gotcha! Go, Big Bird! Go, Big Bird! Okay, now don't let him go. I'll go tell everybody.
Huh?
Food! Food, everybody! Big Bird, go! Go, Big Bird!
Oh, that means that Bird's friends are coming to meet me now.
Yes,
Oh, well, I better go home and brush my fur then. No. Don't want to look good for it.
No, get go.
Hey, let go of my snuffle.
Get
No, it gets worse. It gets worse.
Elmo, hold on.
Wait,
Didn't anybody hear me? I said food.
yeah, we.
That's the secret word. Food.
Again. Oh.
No.
Do you think we ought to believe you?
Yes,
Okay, all right. One
that's
more
right.
time,
Hurry.
Big Bird.
He's right behind those doors. But
Okay.
if you don't hurry, I don't know how long little Elmo can hold it.
This is one more time.
This is the
Three
last.
strikes and you're out.
But this is it. But this is the moment. This is the.
Okay.
Oh boy. Oh, this is the most thrilling moment. I can't look. Oh, I can't. I got to. I've been waiting for years for this. It seems like. I can't do it. I can't look. Oh.
That's how much trauma they put him through over Mr. Snuffleupagus right here.
And I think enough parents are writing in going, do you know how much this is stressing out our children?
No, I can't do this. Oh, right inside the door right now. The grown-ups are probably face to face with Mr. Snuffleupagus, and should I go in and join them? I don't know if I can take it. I should, huh? Okay. This is it. Here I go.
Come on, Big Bird. You better be there, Snuffy.
I don't know why I get the feeling that I'm kind of losing an old friend.
I love the looks.
Because half of them never believed him. They never believed him until now.
At last! Oh, joy! I told you there was a Snuffleupagus, and last, you've seen him, and you gotta believe it, right? I told you all along that there was a Snuffleupagus, my best pal. He's not imaginary, but you never believed me.
Oh, but Maria and Linda and I believed you, Big Bird.
No, you
Yeah,
didn't.
but the rest of you didn't.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're right. We did, but.
Well, but what?
Yeah, but what?
Yeah, but what?
But. Well,
Big Bird, you have a right to be angry.
I do?
Yes, you do, because after all this time and we didn't believe you, that must have been very hard for you.
Well, yeah, it was.
Well, Big Bird, from the bottom of my heart, I want to apologize because I'm really sorry.
Oh.
Big Bird, you know what? From now on, we'll believe you whenever you tell us something.
Yes.
Promise?
Yes.
Promise.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should get that in writing.
What? Oh, Linda. Huh? Oh, Snuffy, Linda says that I should introduce you to everybody.
Oh,
Elmo wants to.
Elmo, you and I have already met.
Never mind.
Well, hey, all right. Why don't everybody line up behind Linda?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, Snuffy,
Yeah.
I want you to meet my friend Linda.
No,
Linda, Snuffy, Linda.
pleased to meet you.
And Snuffy, this is Bob. He's the tenor.
I never thought I'd see the day.
Wow.
And this is Dave. My
Hi.
friend.
And they cut it off in the introductions and everything. But as a kid, that was torture for Big Bird. That was literally torture.
But I like the fact that Susan humbles out.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. We should have believed you. And you have a right to feel angry because we did not believe you. And you have a right to your feelings. That says a lot to children to
Mm-hmm.
say, it's okay to have those feelings because you have a right to be, if you've been hurt, you have a right to feel hurt. You have a right to feel angry. Growing up in Black households, we were often told that we didn't have an adult did something wrong or an older kid or somebody did something wrong to you. You didn't have a right to have that feeling. I mean, many a time it's like, look, you can't be mad at her. Why? What they did was clearly in the wrong. You should have the right. And so
Mm-hmm.
to tell kids, you have a right to feel bad about this because you told the truth. You never lied and no one believed you. That for a lot of kids spoke volumes, And I love the fact that Susan did it because I always pictured Big Bird and Susan kind of having this sort of mother-child relationship.
Mm-hmm.
He looks to her maternally. Susan is kind of his guide through the world, at least at that point. Because I think at that point, Big Bird was supposed to be about 4 years old.
Right. It was 3 or 4. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was about 4. By the time Snuffy comes along, he's about 4. He's about
Right.
4 or 5.
But they were both the same age. I think they were
Yeah,
both supposed
they
to
were
be
both
same
the
age.
same. And then they brought in Snuffy's little sister, and we got to see his parents.
Mhm.
But it gives kids to say, okay, nobody believed you, and you spoke the truth, and you proved it. You have a right to feel angry. You have a right to feel hurt. Doesn't give you the right to run around and be evil, but you have a right to your feelings. And
Mhm.
for kids, that's a big thing. Because like I said, I grew up at a time when, if somebody did you wrong, especially if it was a person that was older than you, a teenager, an adult or something, you had to just take it. Even if you brought proof, undeniable proof that adult or somebody was in the wrong, you were not allowed to be angry. You didn't have the right. So that is a good thing. I come from a generation of children, especially Black children, where we were told you had to stuff your feelings or just act like they didn't exist.
Or even worse, I'll give you something worse to cry about.
I'll give you something to cry about. So this was, I'm glad, and I'm sure a lot of parents were like, you know what, you're stressing my child out. When you stress my child out, you're stressing me out. I will not be donating to PBS this year. In fact, I may not let my kids watch. So, that probably did get the Sesame Street to go, oh, we need to wrap this up. This is getting, because I'm sure there were people who were writing this thinking, oh, this is so much fun, and not realizing the harm. And it's like, and so somebody else had to come up and say, you have to read these letters and understand what you're doing. As an adult, you might think this is funny, but for children, this is not a joke.
But
because
that was
for
the key
them,
thing.
Big Bird is real. A lot of kids would see themselves through Big Bird.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Big Bird is told by the people he's supposed to respect and care and think they care about him, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're making it up. You're lying. That says really negative things to those kids. So it's like, yeah, parents probably got on PBS, and PBS then went to the children's public broadcasting, said, you need to fix this.
Well, that's the one thing that made this so, if I could say, traumatizing, because they never said that Big Bird lied.
No, but they
played the whole imaginary friend role as if something was wrong, and they did not know where to go with it beyond that.
And I remember when they were first introducing Snuffy, you would see occasionally Bob and Susan or Bob and Gordon or somebody having these conversations where they were concerned about Big Bird. The children knew he was telling the truth. But, like I said, Big Bird, like Elmo, are two of the characters from Sesame Street that kids kind of see through.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I'm sure little kids are just, it's immediately bringing up little situations where maybe they weren't believed, or it was something serious that a child might be afraid to talk about because they don't believe, Snuffy's real. I know Snuffy's real, and yet Big Bird keeps saying it, and they don't believe him. So if adults think that Snuffy is a lie, and I try to tell them about something, but because I don't have the immediate proof of it, maybe they'll just say I'm lying too.
But that makes it so much more powerful because the way that I remembered the history of it, and even they kind of mentioned it here, Linda, Susan, and Gordon, even though they did not believe him all outright, there was enough evidence there that's kind of made it seem like he's telling the truth, but we just don't know. And if I remember correctly, Linda was one of the few people that actually saw one of Snuffy's toys or something, because it was obviously not Big Bird's, it was somebody else's.
But it was still kind of like, okay, Big Bird. As a child, sometimes an adult is it's condescending because it's like, okay, humoring. I'm going to act. Yeah, they're humoring them. So children are picking up. And I think, like I said, whoever was writing this they were probably thinking of the joke in an adult term as opposed to getting down to a child's level and seeing what that was like. Because children, I remember watching it and getting upset. In fact, I think I quit watching Sesame Street for quite a while because of the whole Snuffleupagus thing. To me, it was like, okay, this is exhausting. This is exhausting. Poor Snuffy poor Snuffy, I get it. And they're playing it so that Snuffy's always, the minute he goes to get somebody, something happens, Snuffy has to go. And he doesn't, he doesn't leave a note to say, hey, Bird, be back. Or something.
There was never anything like that.
But I'm saying
there was something else that bothered me, but I'll mention it later. Go ahead.
Okay. I just know I was older, and yet I was getting exhausted of that. I was getting at the point of saying, you know what? This feels like a joke that is being played for too long. Because what does Big Bird say? I feel like this has been going on for years. Okay? You hear that frustration. I wonder if parents were writing and they had the Big Bird character, they had Big Bird voice with these kids were going through. It's like, why doesn't anybody believe him? And to a child, a day is a century.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm thinking this has been going on forever, and they identify with this character. And so that's got to be, I know as exacerbating it was for me as an older person, for a child, that's beyond stressful. And I was glad when it was like, okay, because I think when that came out, they did TV Guide had something in it about, Snuffy proven real, that the cast gets to see him. And it was like, good. For those of you who don't know, back in the day, I don't have anything that's the exact size. They used to have this little magazine that came out once a week called the TV Guide. And it told you all of the TV shows and movies and stuff that were coming on every channel. And they also featured things like interviews and articles about TV shows and people on TV shows and stuff like that. And it was a big thing. It was big enough so that TV Guide actually put a mention of it, which is how
it was about the size of kind of like this novel, but not as thick. It's not as thick, but it's about the size.
It wasn't. It was about maybe
it's about half as thick as this novel. It's about a quarter thick of that novel, but it was about this size.
Yeah, about the thickness of just a little thicker than this phone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and depending on when you got them, I think I don't think I ever paid more than maybe $1.50 for a TV guide, if that. So it was a big deal, and for kids, this was a big deal. And like I said, I love the fact that Susan humbles out and she's the first one to step up and say, "You have a right to be angry," and she consoles him. It's okay. You have a right to be angry. We should have trusted you. We should have believed what you said. I think that went a long way. And I think not just for children, I think for those parents who were more amenable to
Mm-hmm.
that, it also gave them, I am hoping that it helped open up a dialogue between parents and kids. Is there something that's been going on? Because I know when even now John will bring something up and I'll have to think about, oh, what's he trying to tell me? He's telling me about this show, but what is going on that he's really trying to tell me about? You know, sorry, y'all. It is the video game awards.
Oh, they're
And
watching it. They're watching it.
he and his crew are watching it.
Uh-huh.
And nothing short of going in there with, a meat cleaver is going to shut him up. So
And we don't do stabby once we're live. That's incriminating evidence.
yes, I can't lie about it to a judge if YouTube can pull up the evidence,
Right.
even if it's just hearing him scream from the other room and then me coming out all bloody. But but yeah, for me, this, like I said, this was infuriating to me as I think I was in my this was the 80s, so yeah, I was in my late teens, early 20s, and it was like, okay, I've had enough.
So,
Jeez. So
like I said, I was in like what, 5th or 6th grade, and I'm looking at this. I'm going to going to the point where it's like, now since I think about it as an adult, it's like it's just poor writing in one aspect, because every time Big Bird and Snuffy was together, they were playing by themselves. And Big Bird has always been known to play with everybody that was on Sesame Street. So this tells me, it's like, why is this relationship, your best friend, is being kept from everybody else on the street here? And only a few of the monsters ever knew about him. But the actual human people only got clues. They got clues that it's a possibility that he could be real.
and most
And it was subtle stuff too.
Yeah, that's the problem. It was very subtle.
Like
so
a big hairbrush. What Snuffy would brush his hair with. He might leave that in Big Bird's nest, and they could be like, well, it could have been Big Bird's, but it could be somebody else, because they never seen, Big Bird have something like that. So it's like, it could be or couldn't be. We don't know.
And to me, that to me was sort of poor writing.
Or the ruined film.
Oh, okay.
That one to me, that was stretching it. That's the reason why. That's the reason why I took the screenshot that I took the screenshot of, because I remember that, because it's like they were by themselves and they had a camera set up, and it's like, we're going to take this picture and this, that, and the other, yada yada yada, with the best of friends and this, that, and the other, and it was unequivocal proof that he existed.
And then I forgot what happened, but the film was damaged and they weren't able to develop it.
Right.
This was back in the day where you actually used this stuff called film in cameras, and you had to develop them. But if you exposed the film incorrectly, the light would damage it. You had to be careful about exposure. And even with those little Kodak Instamatic cameras, it would spit the picture out, but you'd have to wave it like this so that it could dry and develop. But if you weren't careful, if it was, too hot, too cold, raining, it could just, you had to be careful about where you put your little picture because it could get damaged, and
Mhm.
that was the end of it. Now, we have our phones and
But
stuff.
that was the whole thing about the mystery and mystique. They kept writing for the mystique of it without thinking about the psychological damage it was doing to Big Bird.
Well, not just Big Bird, but like I said, a lot of kids identify Big Bird,
Mhm.
and I love the fact that Elmo is the one that comes to Big Bird's assistance, because Elmo's the one is like, Snuffy's like, I better go brush my fur. And Elmo's like, no, you not. You are
And he
not.
was swinging around like, whoa, hey, wait, no.
Elmo was like, Big Bird told me to keep you here. You are not moving. I just loved that. I thought it was very sweet.
But but that's not the first time that another monster has seen him, and that was the key thing. Because I was like, yeah, other monsters
But
have
this
seen
was
him,
a
but none of
first
the
time
real people.
another monster helped him.
Mhm.
This was the first time where another monster stepped up and said, it's like Elmo could sense Big Bird's distress.
Mhm.
And it's like, Elmo's going to help you. Elmo's going to do whatever he can to help you.
It's like Elmo is a strong monster. Whoa!
Elmo wasn't playing. So I love that, because also it strengthens the bond between Big Bird and Elmo. Kids don't have to choose; they can love both Big Bird and Elmo, because that was something
It
I
bridged
loved
the
about
gap.
Sesame Street.
It bridged the gap for the transition, because Big Bird really isn't around now in Sesame
As
Street.
much, yeah. It's more. It's
More about Elmo and the monsters that's younger than him now.
yeah. But like I said, I can see where this was distressing for children. So I'm glad that they finally wrapped it up, and they wrapped it up in a way where somebody stepped in and said, hello, these are children, little children that you're dealing with. You're not making jokes for the Johnny Carson crowd. You're writing for children. And this is messing children up and then messing adults up. And when you mess adults up, they don't, because PBS, especially back then, got at least a good 25 to 30% of their funding from donations from individuals. Yes, they, depending on the show, they got big donations from the Pew Trust and other organizations, but a good portion, especially for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a lot of their money either came directly from PBS, or it came people, because back in the early days of PBS, you would donate, but people could say, this is for Sesame Street. And they would have their marathons, and so that the Sesame Street viewers could make their donations early on a Saturday, and then they would transition it, and they would know, okay, these people donated while the Sesame Street stuff was on, so that money's going there. These people donated while the Wonderworks, the Anna Green Gables or whatever, or Masterpiece Theater. They know who wants their money to go where because of when they made their donation. And that was really good. I love it. Nowadays, if you're interested, both PBS and NPR have their own catalogs. Signals is PBS, wireless is NPR. They have all sorts of interesting things that they sell that you can order the catalog. They will send it to you for free, and you can buy stuff. There's all sorts of interesting things in those catalogs. They're great for the holidays, and they usually have stuff for all ages, especially the Signals one. But so that's me shilling for them.
Well, I wasn't going to do that. I was thinking about something else, but I wanted to run it by you and Cliff before I actually start looking it up here.
Okay. Well, I'm here now.
I was interested in, since you brought up PBS and everything, I was interested in actually maybe the next one or two shows here to actually show the hearing of where Fred Rogers actually
Oh,
went to
yes.
Congress and really explain the significance of that here and
Yeah.
when what he said to in that hearing and how special that was.
How
Everybody
powerful.
knows that it's like, well, Fred, Mr. Rogers said say PBS. It's like it wasn't just the fact that he said PBS. It's what he said in that hearing
And the way
that
he said
turned
it.
everybody's hearts
Yeah.
back to funding it.
It was what he said and the way he said it. And I was always happy that they chose him to act as their spokesperson. I don't know if they had used anyone else. I don't think Alistair Cook, and I have not. I loved Alistair Cook. He introduced me to Masterpiece Theater, and mystery and whatnot. But I just don't think Alistair Cook, for all his ability, would have had the same effect. I think we really, especially because he was talking about children's television and why this specific type of children's television was exceptionally necessary.
It went beyond that. It went beyond that because it was not just about children's television. It's about the educational value behind it. What
Yes.
is truly being taught on these shows? And I think no other person but Fred Rogers could address it correctly. You couldn't pick anybody from during the early days of Sesame Street. You couldn't pick anybody from there. You couldn't. It's like you couldn't have anybody from Masterpiece Theater. You couldn't have anything else that was going on with PBS. Fred Rogers was the ultimate pick, but if you see the full scope of that hearing, it heard the questions that was coming out of it. It was not just about children's programming. It was about programming as a whole.
Yeah.
What is people really learning from these shows here? And his answer was spot on.
Yeah. Why it mattered and what about the approach that PBS took to programming that made it unique?
And what is to gain from it? And what is to gain from it was not it's going to guarantee that children's going to have higher test scores and everything. It was more along the lines of I'm trying to spread love. I'm trying to spread a positive self-image to make people understand that you are worth it.
Yes. To give
And
children
that
a sense that an adult is looking at them and saying, you have value. What you feel has value. How you view the world has value. And because one of the things that Mr. Rogers was really good with is dealing with children's feelings. I remember 9/11. They did a special show. They did a special couple of shows. And yeah, there were a couple of people on both sides of the aisles who were like, oh, poo poo, Mr. Rogers. But the majority of us, especially those of us who had kids, those of us who were getting our kids ready for school, and I saw that on TV. And at first it was like, I thought I was watching the news. I thought it was okay, what movie did I turn into when I thought I was watching the news? And then the reporter came on and like, holy crap, this is really happening. As I'm in LA trying to get my youngest ready for school. My oldest has already left and I'm getting my youngest ready for his day and waiting for his cab driver to pick him up. So to have Mr. Rogers do those shows where they were talking about King Friday and his wife talking about there was difficulty in the kingdom, and they were talking to their son, and they played it beautifully because Prince Tuesday was so afraid, and their job was to make him feel safe, and that they were going to do everything that they could to ensure that he was going to be okay and the neighborhood was going to be okay.
See, I was at work. I was working during that time, but
I was raising
not nine
children,
nine
so I,
eleven 9/11. I try not to think about it because it has a different significance for me because of the events that actually happened.
my aunt Julia was working in that area, and she was far enough away where she was not injured. But what they were doing is they were grabbing people who were not injured, who
Hmm.
were around. They were going to offices and go because they didn't have enough emergency response people. So they were going to offices and on the street, sort of like conscripting people. We need help right now. We need you to help. So they were literally pulling people. My Aunt Julia said by the time she was done that day, she went home, she took a shower, and she said she crawled into her bed, she pulled a blanket over her head, and she didn't talk. She didn't talk to her husband, she didn't talk to anybody. She just didn't want to think after that. And a lot of people, I've heard a lot of people since. I've known a few people who lived in New York and they were down there and they helped and they were saying, yeah, I just wanted to go home and shut down. Once that was all done, it was just I didn't want to think for a while. And then it was like, and then you wake up the next day and the sun has risen and you realize it's a new day, and you got it. You're not dead. You have to get up and move forward.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought Fred Rogers handled it so beautifully, and for kids especially. And luckily there were more people on his side about what he did than there were some detractors, including in Congress, but there were more people when they watched. Parents went and said, "Did you even watch? Or are you just bitching and moaning for the sake of bitching and moaning? Did you see it?" And then and said, "Hey, watch it and then get back and flap your gums. But watch it first. Watch it with a child."
Well,
And
that's the whole thing. He never talked down to children. He's always everything was even kill.
yeah,
He's like he was that person that listened and explained it in terms that they understood it without you know talking down. It was always upbeat, up kill, and everything.
yeah.
But like I said, the whole 9/11 thing, that to me is a mixed bag because with me working with the state of Illinois,
Hmm.
I was at work during that time, and there's a difference when you have to go into immediate lockdown because you don't know which other buildings were going to be attacked.
Yeah.
Because remember, they had planes going to the Pentagon. They had one somewhere in the fields of Pennsylvania. I forgot where they was going, what they were trying to do there. But
I think there
once
was some
the
sort of,
towers were hit, they locked down every other municipal building across the country, not just New York, across the country until there was an all clear. And then when the all clear hits, they say, nope, go home.
the man that drove my son and a couple of the other boys to their school, because we lived in West LA
Mhm.
and they were going to school in the valley. So that's quite a drive.
Mhm.
Um, as we started getting more information, it was, oh, these are Arabic gentlemen. He was an Arabic gentleman.
Mhm.
He brought John home and he had tears in his eyes. And he said, I would rather be run over than let something happen to your son. And I knew that because this man, they used to have to come through the Sepulveda Pass. And for those not living in LA, Sepulveda Pass is where fires used to jump. It's a part of the expressway where fires, they would come on the news. Yeah, fire just jumped Sepulveda Pass. and, you and that's where he had to come through in traffic because
Mhm.
that was the quickest way to get in from the valley. And he would call all the parents. He had four little boys. No, he had three in the back and one in the front. John used to sit in the front with him because he was the tallest. so he could sit in the front. And the other boys were a little shorter, so they had to sit in the back because they had with kids in the back seat rule in LA. But he would call us. He would call each parent in turn. Hi, I know you just heard this. The fire just jumped the pass. And he would say, we're behind, we're in front of it. We've already got through. They're redirecting us. We're going to be another 20 minutes. He would call us all and let us know that our kids were safe and he was doing everything he could to get them home. And that day, this man he broke down and cried. He was brokenhearted. And he had to go to work the next day, and some of the parents wouldn't let their kids ride with him. And he came to pick up John, and I walked him down the way I always do. And he was like, hey, and John was like, hey, and he was like, oh, my friend. And it's like, you haven't heard it. You haven't done anything that I believe I should worry about. So, and it's like, just call me when you've got him. When he gets to school, just call me and let me know he's there safe. And the school will call and say, yeah, he's here. He's fine. They just dropped him off. And they would call, and for the first couple of weeks, they would call the parents as soon as they put him in the van. Hey, they just got in the cab. They're on their way. So the school knew that there were parents who were going to feel a little weird about it. And so they were overseeing it. But he, as always, picked the kids up and brought them home and made sure they were safe. Because that, as he said, was his job. And he took his job very seriously. So I never looked at him weird. Growing up as a Black person, you understand what it's like, where people automatically, one does something and we're all guilty. And I didn't want to take that response with him, because I also knew that how I viewed it was going to affect how John viewed it. And John was a little worried, and he would see something and he would go, he's good. And it's like, yes, sweetie, he's very good. You don't have to be afraid. He's very good, so having Mr. Rogers there helped, because he and I sat and watched that together. And, it helped him and it helped me. So, thank you, Mr. Rogers.
I find all of the documentaries about him very enlightening, especially ones that talked about his wife.
I didn't know much about his wife. I knew he had been a minister. And at one point, I knew he was a man of faith. I believe
he's a man of faith, but I don't think he was a true minister.
I don't know if he was actually at a church, but I know he had a degree. He had his original plan at one point had been to go into the ministry. And I think he kind of viewed his work on PBS as his ministry. Not to say, I'm spreading the word of God, but
he never went to school for divinity.
You sure? Because when I remember,
he went to music school.
Did he? Okay, because I remember at some point when I was younger, they were someone
that was one of the myths.
Okay, because somebody had interviewed him and made this claim before they did the interview that he had been to, he was going to go into the ministry, but
he was a man of faith, but he never went to divinity.
Okay. But I also knew he also, as much as he let his faith guide him, he never felt, I always think he would be really appalled at the state of Christo-fascism today, because he, as much as he had his faith and he let it guide his actions, he felt it was not his job to beat people over the head with his beliefs. To live his faith quietly with purpose. He didn't sermonize, he didn't proselytize. That he felt was not his job.
It was not his job, nor would his wife allow him to. People don't realize how much his wife brought to the table. they both went to music school and they both graduated from music school. His wife was a well-known concert pianist.
Yes, see, I didn't know that.
She actually performed several of the songs, the actual music composition
Oh,
for the
yes.
show.
She played, okay, I didn't know she was a concert. I do know she played, and I loved it because there was a couple of jazz pieces that she did. They were
Mm-hmm.
kind of jazzier, and I love those pieces. I always thought, ooh.
I forgot the other concert pianist that actually did the theme when you really delve into all the different documentaries dealing with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or Mr. Rogers, but the one that I saw last was dealing more with his wife. And some of the things that she said about him that was like, oh, he married a very good wife, because she kind of understood where some of the things in television were going, and some of the things that Fred would not like. And the thing about it is that he never brought the television life home, and he never took home to the studio. So, the life with her, her and the kids for one thing, and he was there, he was attentive and all the other stuff that a father needed to be. But she also knew the pressure that was up, that he was going through because of what all the stuff that was happening with PBS and all the changes and everything, and the fact that he was staying steadfast. It's like, I'm not changing the show.
Yeah, this is who I
Because the
am. This is
show
what I
means a
do.
lot to too many people, and anything new that needed to be addressed, he figured out a way to address it where it did not harm anyone.
It's one of the things I've always loved about Fred Rogers. Yeah, it was one of those things. I respected him.
But it made me respect her even more so, because there were things that he shared to her that unless she was a very strong woman, you couldn't it's like most women would have buckled up under some of the pressures that he would have went through.
Okay.
But she understood, it's like, it was my job to not push, not to pry into what was going on with what was going on in the TV, is to help make his life a little bit easier, to give him that little bit of solace. And she even said that it did have a toll on her as far as being pretty much the head of household, because she did run the house more so than he did. But when he was there, he was there.
And which made him unique because like I said, I was born in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember, and my mom was only one of two single moms on our block. And a lot of the rest of the families were nuclear families, mom, dad, kids. But, the dads worked, and then when they got home, they didn't want to deal with it was the moms that ran the home and managed the family. Dad would come home, have a beer, and it might be an hour or two before you could talk to him. I know a lot of dads, they would come home and grab beer or grab a paper and sit down in front of the news, and you couldn't talk to them for that first hour or so. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to know. I knew people who had dads who they only came into the situation if extreme discipline was required. They didn't they just, it was like, I have to get up and work every day, and I shouldn't have to come home and deal with this. And it's like, you made those kids. Shouldn't just wake up one day and boom, here's the baby.
Right.
You have
But
that
he
responsibility.
was hands on. He was definitely hands on with the kids and everything.
Like I said, that made him. I just remember a lot. Some of the dads, and it wasn't that they were evil men, because, like I said, when we were playing and the guy went tearing through the alley in his car, the dads caught him at the under end. The dads made it possible so that we could trick or treat. The dads helped decorate the neighborhood for the holidays. The dads made it so that we didn't have trash all over our sidewalk or in the gutters and whatnot. The dads made sure there was a garbage can at the bus stop. So when people were getting on the bus and had to throw something away, or getting off the bus and wanted to throw something away, they could do that without having to toss it around the neighborhood. The dads kept, it was like it was very suburban. Neat lawns. Some dads, like Mr. Pruitt, concreted their backyard. He just wasn't doing, so he concreted over the backyard. But that gave us all a place to play.
Right.
So, they were involved, but a lot of the dads, it was kind of a distant sort of thing. They were there.
It really wasn't. I don't want to say it was distant. It was less hands-on until you was of a certain age.
Yeah, once people started getting teenagers, that's when the dads started sort of stepping up. When we started reaching our teens, then the dads started taking more interest. But also, this was what? We didn't get the right to vote until 65. So the dads also were real politically active. Our polling place was the Resurrection Church across the street from us in the school section. And it was not unheard of on a Tuesday night. Something was going down and Mr. Pruitt would be knocking on everybody's door. Hey, we got to go over to Resurrection. We're having a meeting, this and this and this. And so, it was the dads that they were, while sometimes they weren't hands-on with their kids, they protected the neighborhood. So, if there was an issue that affected our block, the dads were on it, and they pulled the moms. It was like, Mr. Pruitt would show up at our door. Hey, Miss Haggett, you got to come over to Resurrection because we got a meeting. We need to take care of this right now. So they were there. They weren't there the same way the moms were. Maybe that's the easy way to put it.
Well, like I look at it as the dichotomy between the 60s and the 70s. Because the 70s, I think, was the major divide, not because of choices by individuals. It was just more along the lines of how the culture was.
Well, also 70s, you had a generation, 70s and 80s, you had more Black women going to college and making choices of getting careers as opposed to just getting jobs. And that made a difference in the home dynamic, because it was like, oh, I'm earning money. We have this house because I'm helping to pay that mortgage. I am, so it started changing the family dynamic, because, he could come home and say, I'm tired. And she's like, well, baby, I've been working too. So, and if I got to come home and cook and make sure there's a dinner or whatnot, you need to deal with the kids, because I didn't work 8 hours just like you didn't work 8 hours. So, that changed the dichotomy, because suddenly men were realizing, oh, okay, she's like, I'm on my second shift. You need to get up. You need to help deal with some of this.
And that's the reason why it always fascinates me how people wax nostalgia the 50s, because single women had their own careers per se.
But
when they got married, they gave up the careers to
yeah,
stay at home.
yeah. The minute
By the time we get to the 80s, it was the opposite. It's like they kept the career.
well, also back then,
Mhm.
you could be married and work, but the minute you got pregnant, you were fired. Unless you were like, if you were because back then people forget, yeah, women worked, but if you were, but there was a difference between clerks, secretaries, and executive secretaries. An executive secretary was likely to be able to get time off to deal with her pregnancy and then come back, unless whatever replacement, the substitute, unless the boss found the substitute more of a workable relationship, she knew she would have a job to come back to, or because she was an executive secretary, she knew she had skills that she could use elsewhere. Clerks, um, clerks had a little bit more than just everyday secretaries, because a clerk was somebody who knew procedures, filing, stuff like that on a larger scale than just the girls in the secretarial pool who spent their day typing. You know, you could type really fast, but to understand clerical procedures, to be able to type, plus an executive secretary also had things like you had to have that phone voice. You had to have that voice, so when your boss's phone rang and you answered it, you know, you can get, yeah, what you want. You couldn't pull a Ghostbusters.
You couldn't pull any pot.
You couldn't pull an Annie Potts. And so, you know, and you could tell by how they dressed who was what. But yeah, there were always professional women. Some worked, some got to keep factory jobs, but it was the minute you got pregnant, you got fired. That was just automatic.
One of the jobs back then that I know is a lot of women was able to go back to. It's like if you was in accounting, you could, you know, as soon as it was over and everything, you had babysitting and everything, you could go back to an accounting job because accountants were few and far between. Accountants, that is.
If you had your CPA, certified public accountant license, yeah, you could. And the thing is because a lot of CPA work was stuff that you could do at home. You didn't necessarily have to be in the office, because back then a lot of offices had their own. There was either a courier company that the office employed to ship paperwork back and forth, because if it had to get there by 5 o'clock, you knew USPS wasn't going to do it. You know, you hired private couriers. I lived in LA, and there were times when I had to get a script out. You know, you get somebody on the phone. Hi, can you get me that script in 3 hours? Okay, let me go look up a courier. You know, and other writers will go, oh yeah, this service will all, you know, if you've got it ready to go, call them. They're reasonable. They'll pick it up and they'll deliver it and call you to let you know that who they handed it off to and when. Because that's how they kept working, by being reliable. So if somebody needed that report, you could call. Hey, I need X and X paperwork. And yes, this is in the days before we had computers and you could just zip a file. Okay, you had to physically take files and deliver them. But you know, they would deliver you the information. The CPA would sit there and run it through the calculator and whatnot, and type it all.
Back in the days where there was calculators and adding machines.
And just so you know, I actually worked as a bookkeeper for a while. I had a friend's company. They were downtown on Michigan Avenue. And a couple of times we were in the same church and she would call me and go, hey, you know that accounting job you did? Because I knew basic business accounting. I had learned, I forgot where, I picked it up in the Marines. And because I was a company clerk, so you had to know that stuff. And so every once in a while, when they had extra work to be done, they would call. hey, she would call me, hey, my boss was wondering if you've got a couple of hours this afternoon. We've got some stuff for you to do. It's like, okay, fine. And they would pay me. One
Mhm.
time, they not only paid me, but they gave me tickets to Orchestra Hall. It's like, yay, this is good job. Not that often to do it, but
Mhm.
to have your name where somebody would call and go, hey, can Elaine come do this? It's like, yeah, sure. And that's what happened. You would develop a client list. I worked as a temp, and that's how I worked because I built up enough goodwill that people would call the agency and say, hey, is Elaine available? Can she call me for the next couple of days? You know, so that's how those of us without degrees did it. You had, if you back then, if you could prove you had the skills, there were folks who would give you a
Mhm.
chance. First National Bank became one of my top clients. I loved working for them. I miss First National Bank. They paid well.
It just fun. Like I said, it's just funny how people forget how things were in the past because I listen to people now. It's like it's never like that. It's like y'all wax nostalgia about the wrong aspect of certain things here.
It's things change, and sometimes it's interesting because sometimes for the sake of change, we, as the old folks used to say, toss out the baby with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the things that change um, get changed not because they necessarily need to, and we see it slowly where this the generation that's coming up is looking back and going, maybe it was a mistake to do this instead of that. Maybe we could have still been doing this. So we do. You do see. I do see signs of the younger generations looking back and going, "Hey, maybe this. Yeah, we can work remotely, but maybe there can be sort of a combination of the two. You see the younger kids trying to work out better solutions, and some of them are doing it by looking back to say, well, how did they do it? Because they weren't killing each other every 5 minutes. They got through the day, and what was it back then that made those workplaces workable? you know some people, they sometimes we get a little too much in the way of new,
Mm-hmm.
and we forget there are things from the old days that could have been held on to. And speaking of the old days, I'm going into my rant
Yeah,
because
I was about to get ready to introduce it once I said the one point that I was going to make about the
okay,
olden about where things are going. There is an outcry for the trades these days for a reason because we're losing techniques,
yes,
not because people can't do it, but we losing the techniques of old of how people went from being an apprentice to a master. Everybody cannot just go into a trade and be a master. You have to learn and develop and everything. It's just like with artwork, you don't become a master artist, just by picking up a pencil. It takes years. Same thing with welding and plumbing and carpentry and all these other trades. It takes years.
yeah,
The younger set now are slowly looking back at the past, and now they're seeing it's like, oh, so I went to college and did not pick this stuff up. I might know about it, I might know the history of it, but I did not pick up any of the techniques from it. And
it's
now there might be a outcry, I shouldn't say an outcry, but a movement to go back to those things here.
it's
It's going to be
we
more
got
of
a
an
little too
artisan
much
level than anything.
on the surf. We got a little too caught up in what the end surface result was, and we forget about the technique.
Mm-hmm.
you know and but it's interesting because I follow, as you know, a lot of artists, and um there are various ages artists, but I saw a girl today who was talking about the way she draws, and she has done, because if you use Clip Studio Paint or a few of the other software, They have people, they're always sending me, hey, you ever want to do a class on something, let us know. You know, because they're looking for people to teach, because while yes, the software can make things easier to do, you still have to know what you're doing. You
Mm-hmm.
still have to understand the basics. My post earlier this week about I'm working on the 3D models for my lead characters, and people think, well, you just pull up and make you can change this, and it's like, yeah, but you still have to draw over that model. It's not the model is not the final piece you see. It's a basis to give you the framework that you're working on. But if you still don't understand what it takes to draw, to shade, to shape, even if you still have to understand these things when you're creating that model. If you don't understand that, it's going to come out looking like crap. I don't know any better way to put it.
Okay. Rant time.
Okay. My rant. I have two rants. The first one I'm going to get through quick. I caught an interesting commercial today. It's for the Supergirl movie. And I've heard people, and I haven't paid as much attention to Supergirl comics later. The last time I seriously read Supergirl was when they first switched her in the hot pants, the Star Spangled Hot Pants.
Okay.
Okay. So to see this movie where Supergirl is angry, she's a drunk, it's like, A, you need to go to detox. B, you need about 16 years of therapy. I was sitting there going, I would not pay to see this movie, and I would not bother to stream it. I'm sorry. And I would just say, because I'm sure there were angry young girls who were looking at this going, this is more like me. She's all angry and grungy and she's real. It's like, okay, if you want a hero who isn't a hero but a piece of whatever, do you do? But for me, I'm 64. I'm a little too old school for that. I just looked at it and I didn't even finish the commercial. I just clicked it off and went, yeah, okay, thank you. I'll just go pick up a comic from, I'll see if I can find some of those old books. So if you're over 60, this is not going to be your Supergirl. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in your 50s and up and you like comic books, this is not going to be your Supergirl. She's not. I can just tell you, she ain't going to be your Supergirl. So I don't know, I'm not going to bother with it. I was disappointed, kind of broke my heart. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because something else has broken my heart. I sat down because it's holiday season, and I was going through to make a list of family holiday things that you could watch and where to find them. And some of the most beloved, and I'm not just talking about Charlie Brown, I'm talking Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Home Alone, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the 1966 animated. Okay?
Oh, Tony the Tiger. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch.
Yes. As
Mr.
well
Tony
as
the Tiger talking about, they're great for the Grinch.
But my heart was broken because Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, Year Without a Santa Claus, Night Before Christmas. I think by the time Yuletide had rolled around, I had watched at least 30 Christmas specials, animated or Puppetoons or whatever, Christmas specials that you could see on CBS, NBC, or ABC. And let us not forget on, was it Garfield Goose? You got the trifecta of Hard Rock Coco and Joe, Susie Snowflake, and the what is it? The jazz, the
Frosty,
bebop version,
ba-da-da.
the 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 soft bebop version of Frosty the Snowman. Okay, you can't find these anymore. We used to watch this stuff for free every year. Families or kids would gather up. That was the we could sit there with our popcorn and sodas and stuff and enjoy it. Nowadays, it's friggin' you gotta go to you either subscribe or you're ordering it. And I started putting the list together, and my heart just got broken. Things that we got for free. If you're lucky, yeah, Cliff, I know you got the videos. Yeah. There's a lot of people, though, especially households where you don't have a lot of money, the kids don't get to see this. And that's sad. Even poor kids, if you could afford a black and white TV, you could watch all of those specials and it wouldn't cost you anything. And there are at least two or three different versions of animated versions of Dickens' A Christmas Carol. My favorite is Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, which, if you're interested, you got to get on Amazon, and it's not with subscription. You got to buy that puppy. That's how I got it. And so many things. If you want to see Home Alone or Home Alone 2, actually, Home Alone, the first movie you can get if you're subscribing to Disney and Hulu Plus, it's part of that subscription. Otherwise, the cheapest price is Prime Video at $3.79, followed by Apple TV and Fandango Home, which are $3.99 each. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Again, you got to subscribe Disney, Hulu. But anyone else, it's $3.99. Prime Video, YouTube, Apple TV, Fandango at Home, $3.99. It used to cost that much to go see it in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It used to cost that to go see it at the theater. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And there's several versions of this. I'm talking about the 1966. I was 5.
Again, Tony the Tiger. The Tony the Tiger version.
Yes, the Tony the Tiger version. I never thought of it that
For
way.
people who don't know what I mean by the Tony the Tiger version, the person who was singing and narrating was the voice of Tony the Tiger.
Yes, Tony the Tiger for Sugar Frosted Flakes was a big deal. In fact, there was Tony the Tiger, there was Sugar Bear, who was kind of a riff on Sammy Davis Jr.
Mm-hmm.
There was Snap Rice Krispies with Snap, Crackle, and Pop. Honeycombs.
Yeah, Sugar Bear. Then you got Dig 'em.
That's right. Yeah, Dig 'em.
Dig 'em was Sugar Smacks.
And then later on, we got Count Chocula, Blueberry, and Frankenberry.
And Fruit Brute.
No, that wasn't until later. I'm talking way back in
No,
the days.
I thought Fruit Brute came out in the original ones because that was the only competitor to Fruit Loops.
Okay, I only knew of Frankenberry, Blueberry, and Count
Chocula, and then there was also Fruit Brute.
I didn't.
Fruit Brute was the lesser known one.
Okay, I didn't know about Fruit Brute, but so much to get the Grinch in that version, you have to have a subscription to either Peacock or Prime. Those are the only two places I could find it. This time of year, Peacock might give you a month free. If so, I'd say get that month, watch that stuff, and then turn it off again. That's just me. I checked for the 2000 Jim Carrey version. which next to the animated is my other favorite version. Um, you have to subscribe to Peacock, Prime Video, um, Disney Plus, Hulu, Fubo, or Sling. Otherwise, you have to buy it from Fandango, Google, and Apple TV for $3.99. A Charlie Brown Christmas. This broke my heart. Apple TV has locked it down. However, it's supposed to be available on Prime. I will check later tonight to make sure. Um, the one good thing about the Charlie Brown ones is if you are lucky, check out Family Dollar or Dollar Tree. Family Dollar, I think they're $5 or $10 each. You can find a Charlie Brown Christmas, a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, the Easter one, and if you're really lucky, you might find the Great Pumpkin. And like I said, the DVDs, they're not Blu-ray. These are not Blu-ray, they're just basic DVDs, but they do some of them come with, we got Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and there are some extras that go with that are cute. Including a little historical thing on what it was like for those people to have traveled from England over to America, what that voyage was like from a kid's perspective. So I thought that was pretty interesting because I didn't know they had done that. But yeah, if you're looking for those videos, find a Family Dollar, find a Dollar Tree. Sometimes Dollar Tree, you might get them for 5 or 3. Family Dollar, you're going to pay like 5, maybe 10. But, if you can, I know it's hard, especially nowadays. Collect them one at a time if you can, and build up your own little library. That way, and a basic DVD player. No, a Blu-ray is going to cost you, but a basic DVD player, you can get a decent basic DVD. I think the DVD player I have, I spent $60 on it at Family Dollar. Excuse me. And it plays. Hooks up to my Roku TV and it plays my videos and I get decent picture and sound. And that's all I need. But I would say build a library. If there are movies that you want to be able to have for times of the year, start building your library. Because as my oldest explained, a lot of the deals they used to make for, what's that word? A lot of the deals they used to make for those programs, they don't do them anymore. They don't. So because like I said, CBS had specific shows that they did. NBC was the Little Drummer Boy and one or two others. CBS did, because they would sometimes do it on the afternoon. You got at least one or two versions of Christmas Carol. Channel 9 every once in a while would show Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, which is how I knew it existed. And then ABC, excuse me, had the big Rankin Bass. I'm going to take a call.
You still didn't mention one of the ones that I thought you was going to mention.
Which one was that?
Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
Oh my goodness, that's right. The one that Jimmy Osmond sings the song for at the end. I started going through this list and I just threw my hands up because I was going to do a list of animated and then live action stuff that I thought, but I got so frustrated knowing that you couldn't just go to broadcast television and see any of this. This is the stuff that our generations grew up in. I raised my kids on these things. And now there are whole generations of kids that can't, not everybody can afford Peacock or Prime or Netflix or, Apple TV and Google TV. And especially if it's only available to rent, or it'll cost you. You go to Fandango, yeah, they may let you rent it for $3.99, but if you want to buy it, that's going to cost you like $20. So, not everybody's got that money. I get that. It's hard. And right now it's even more so. I wish. And yeah, they do have clips here and there of these things on YouTube, but it's not the complete. However, I found Mr. Magoo's Frankenstein complete. Like YouTube, you gotta look. I mean, you gotta really dig and look.
Well, I want to add on to your rant. This is part of the reason why there's been a recent movement to go back to physical medium. This is the reason why a lot of people are now going back and collecting the DVDs and Blu-rays and VHS tapes and everything, because the streaming services is cutting everybody out off at the quick for
and they're
movies and stuff
limiting.
that they want to see, but they can't because of copyrights.
Or you've got to pay extra.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do Lugosi's Dracula. I wanted to do Frankenstein and The Mummy. I had Prime had them, but only if I paid extra. So I could get them if I paid extra to get them. And it's like, hello, I already pay you, and now I got to pay extra for stuff that you used to be able to see on Creature Features. Creature Features here in Chicago on WGN TV. That's where I learned to love Universal horror films, because that was their bread and butter. Was Universal horror films. Svengoolie had all of the 50 schlock horror films and some of the stuff from the 60s and stuff. But the classic Universal horror films, those belong to Creature Features. It's sad to think that so much that we took for granted that was part of our life. Syndication, that's it, syndication rights.
Mm-hmm.
They're not syndicating things because you couldn't. The only way, if you ever wanted to see The Hobbit, the original animated version of The Hobbit, or The Lord of the Rings, or Bakshi's, and if you wanted all four of those things together, the animated version, you would have to put that together with Rankin Bass's Hobbit, and then Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, which is actually the Fellowship through halfway through. It's the Fellowship halfway through the Two Towers, and then come out with Rankin Bass's Return of the King. That's the only way to get the animated trilogy, and you can't find those together on the pay services. I have them because I bought them. I couldn't buy them all at once. I got lucky and got a copy of, I think I went to a video resale store and got a copy of The Hobbit on DVD, and I got the Bakshi on sale, as well as I got Return of the King, because they were clearing out some stock, and they had a almost good as new copy that has barely been watched, and I got it for like pennies on the dollar, because that's how you used to have to shop. If you were smart and you didn't have a lot of money but you wanted to get those videos, that's how you did it. You would go to video stores and go, hey, I'm looking for such and such, do you have it? How do you have a copy you want to sell for cheap? And that's how you did it. And you have to be careful, because so few places are, you don't see that many videos outside of Blu-rays at Target or Walmart these days.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go Signals, go to Signals. If you're looking for PBS stuff, some of the old Masterpiece Theater productions and stuff like that, Monty Python, sometimes they'll have them on Signals, and you might be able to get them on clearance. I would say get that Signals catalog, and you can go online to Signals. You can go online to Wireless and get that stuff there. and find it, catch their sales, get it cheap, save up. Because that's how you're gonna have to do it. I've got over what 300 and something DVDs. I got this big monster thing that they're all shoved in. But I've also spent, what is it, the last 20 years. I didn't just buy those at once. I've been collecting them. I think the most I ever paid for an individual DVD was when I got the Two Towers. And even then I got it on sale at Borders. So I was lucky. But it is sad because there's so much that there's just so much that's out there that you can't find unless you get behind that paywall. And even then you're not necessarily you think, oh well, you find it there, and it may not be there. If you can afford Sling, see if you can get Turner Classic Movies. If you can find something that isn't colorized. Why they colorize movies is beyond me. But my rant is there's a lot of really good TV that was made back in the day, and it's a bear to find it. If anybody has a movie that you're interested in, holiday or whatever, reach out, let me know. If you don't know how to find it, I'll see if I can find it. And let me know if you're looking for just to find it, or you can watch in a streamer, or
I have one suggestion, if I may.
Mhm.
And it depends on whether or not you do not have cable television. If you have a digital tuner, you could go. That's like so far this part of the year. So far, Me TV Tunes on Saturdays have been playing a lot of the Christmas cartoons. So I've seen like the Flintstones Christmas, the
Okay.
Smurf Christmas specials and stuff to that magnitude
Oh, okay.
on Me TV Tunes. So that might be one source, but that's the only source that I could think of that is showing full things. But the thing about it is they're not on cable. So you can't get it on Comcast. You can't get it on certain cable networks because this is over broadcast digital television.
I would say, if you want to know, most TVs these days, especially if they're hooked into your internet, I have a Roku. We have Roku TVs, but they have a thing that says live. You
Mhm.
click into that, and it'll show you any channel that it's picking up and what's on it at that time of day.
Yeah, so you want to check Me TV Tunes.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you've got Roku or something, click that live app, and it should tell you what channels are showing what. Because my youngest, before they shut it down, we found Channel 20 had 3 different PBS channels,
Mm-hmm.
and they were run by this city of Chicago, the Chicago colleges. And then they shut it down, which was sad because they also had one of the channels was a Native American channel. I keep forgetting what it's called. But my youngest discovered it and introduced me to it. He discovered it because they had a children's program that he really liked. And then we started watching things on there together. And then they shut it down, and it broke his heart. I also used to watch it because they would have college courses on there, courses on art and writing and things like that. So, because I used to, whenever people say, well, I want to learn this, I would say PFU, Po Folks University, also known as PBS.
Mm-hmm.
Though YouTube is kind of becoming Po Folks University, you'd be surprised at there are people out there doing things. One woman I love, she's called With Wendy. If she takes clothes and deconstructs them and creates the patterns to make things that she herself wants, she'll reconstruct something to create a new outfit. She's amazing. If you're interested in creating your own fast food, if you want to make stuff that looks like you came out the Victorian era, hit
Mhm.
me up. I've got a whole list of folks you need to check out. I have a wide range of interests. So, you know, in fact, you should go check out if you go to at Elaine Haygood, come to my channel. My subscription list is publicly accessible, I believe. I've got over 200 and something different people listed. And it's everything from people who do reaction videos to shows that I like, to people, women who make Victorian clothing, um, who talk about restoring old houses. They're DIYers, they're animators, comic book creators, artists of all types. Believe me, if and one I love called Creative Minds because it talks about, having sanity as an artist in an insane world. I really love that one. But so I'm gonna get off my soapbox because we only have like 28 minutes and I've been talking for quite a bit, and I'm sure Joe had something he wants to add to this conversation.
Well, not just that. I just want to educate you on one thing here. Not this. I have to get past this commercial first. But this is Fruit Brute.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. How did I miss Mr. Werewolf? Where's Blueberry?
Blueberry came a lot later. Fruit Brute came before Blueberry.
Blueberry. Okay. And then there is
So
the mummy guy.
that was the thing that kind of made me worry about you, because you said I don't remember Fruit Brute. That's like Fruit Brute was there originally. Blueberry came later.
I don't know why my brain shut that out. My
But
brain
once you saw
malfunctioned.
it, you was like, oh yeah, I remember him. How can I forget about the werewolf? Fruit Brute, come on.
Maybe I howled at my mom and she smacked me. I don't know.
Maybe there is some trauma there. You probably go around the house. Oh, stop that.
Undoubtedly. But yes,
And he wasn't howling, he was saying fruit. Fruit.
those we didn't get many of those. My mom was like, you know what? You have Apple Jacks. We had, what is it? Not honeycomb. The ones with the ABCs that also had the
Alphabets.
alphabets. You had alphabets that had the marshmallows in them.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was like, you get those, you get super sugar crisps. You've had enough. Because it was like we would see it on Saturday morning cartoons, but my mom's attitude is like, you know what? I only make so much money each month, and this is what you have for cereal. If you can't eat this, you can do without cereal. And my mother would make, like, it would break my heart. She made the worst grits. Love you, Ma, but your grits was. Mm-mm. She made the worst grits. They would be like, how do you ever have those grits where they're almost solid?
It's been a long time since I had grits.
Grits were cheap. Grits were cheap.
Grits. See, again, it's been a long time since I had grits, and it's been a long time since I had cream of wheat, because they're different. If I could say, they're a different texture, but they eat almost kind of like the same.
Malto Meal was my favorite because it had kind of a you didn't need to add as much sugar or butter to it.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of had a flavor to it. So I really liked malto meal, but malto meal was a bit more expensive. And my mother's attitude was like, you know what, I got to feed you all month.
Mhm.
And so I've got to get what I can afford to get. And if you don't eat it, you know, you better learn to do with that.
When they stopped giving us things such as Frankenberry and all the other stuff, I was one of those kids that had to grow up on things like wheat checks, corn checks, bran
Oh,
checks,
oh
raisin
no.
bran.
I didn't mind raisin bran unless I ran out of raisins, you know. And
Surprisingly enough, I like bran checks better than rice and corn checks.
I didn't like any of the checks. I didn't like any of the checks. I will admit I like the sweeter cereals.
Well, that's
I
why I
like
like
the sweeter
like checks
cereals.
nowadays, because now you have like the frosted checks cereal, but any day back in the day, back in like the late 70s, early 80s. Oh yeah, I would eat some wheat checks like no tomorrow. Not wheat checks, bran checks like
I
no
didn't.
tomorrow.
I didn't like brand checks. I didn't like any of the check cereals because either you had to put very little milk in them so that they'd stay crunchy. Because if you put too much milk,
No, they get soggy real quick.
they get soggy real quick, and it was like, you know, what my youngest favorite cereal is. His favorite cold cereal. I still love Frosted Flakes, but I will buy a big box of the off-brand Frosted Flakes from Aldi's.
Hmm.
Jonathan, hold on, let me make sure I get it. Give me a second. Be right back.
Okay. While we're waiting here,
And move forward with Purdue Global at purdueglobal.edu.
while she's getting set up here. Oh,
It only
dang
takes.
it didn't do it right. It didn't do it right. Hold on.
It's a monster mystery riddle. Watercolors are not included.
Oh, I remember those.
For solving the monster riddle, one monster mystery, especially marked.
There's your blueberry.
There's my blueberry. I like blueberry because it sounded like Peter Lorre. The guy who did it,
Yes,
kind of
he
did it
did.
like Peter Lorre.
He
But
did sound like Peter. He looked like and sound like Peter Lorre.
Jonathan's favorite cereal is Special K fruit and yogurt.
That I could believe. I could believe.
He loves Special K. That is his go-to cold cereal. And he will only eat Special K fruit and yogurt.
That's because it's the fruits and berries that make Special K. Because Special K is nothing more than wheat flakes.
Yeah, it's just wheat
It's like
flakes.
eating Wheaties.
But it's, he likes the fruit and yogurt. He likes that Special K. And I have tried buying, he can tell if I'm trying to substitute some cheaper brand or some lesser brand. He knows the difference between his Special K fruit and yogurt and lesser cereals.
Mm-hmm.
If I try to pull a fast one on him, he'll let me know. He will let me know. He's very particular about his cereal, and he's very much a hobbit. It's the bomb.com. Hey, Leia.
To me, Special K is nothing more than Wheaties. But then again, you can't take my word for it, because I'm the one that's eating brand checks.
I loved Wheaties commercials before I do my you would get the Eaties for your Wheaties, and I was always disappointed that they didn't have Mark Hamill when I was younger on there, because it was like I just had this whole thing before I do my Jedi feeties, I get the Eaties for my Wheaties. I had it all made up in my head. It cooked longer. But I had this whole thing.
She's just saying it's like it's not Wheaties.
It's right.
There's cereals that have particular taste to them that you can never ever forget.
Rice Krispies, the flavor was bland as I was concerned, but Rice Krispies had snap, crackle, and pop.
Well, I was thinking about other cereals that if I find people that love grape nuts, I just
Oh,
I just go the other way because that stuff tastes awful.
the only thing that ever was fun about Grape Nuts is they hired Yul Gibbons
Mhm.
as their spokesman. And that was hilarious because Yul Gibbons would get on. He was at when I was a kid. Yul Gibbons was one of these back to nature guys.
She said I did it. I agree. It's not good.
He did this
We
hilarious
Wheaties have a
commercial stuff.
unique taste to it, and I don't care for it.
He did great commercial stuff. He was this naturalist, and he was a nature nut before being a nature nut was popular.
Mhm.
And he before health food, he was the leading health food person. And he would do a commercial. Did you know part of a pine trees are edible? He would, show you how to go and make a toothbrush out of twigs and stuff. He would do these whole commercials and TV specials and stuff and interviews. They would feature him in interviews where he would be out there, using his own hair so he could create fishing line and go fishing. But he sold cereal.
Yep, he
He
sold
sold
a whole
he
bunch of grape
sold him
nuts.
some he sold I ate grape nuts once. I was at a friend's house. I got curious. And ate it once, and an hour or so later after I finally managed to crawl out of the bathroom, I promised myself I would never eat grape nuts again.
I never liked that. I never liked the second incarnation of Muslix.
Muesli, yeah. That was and then it became a joke in the movie Green Card.
I
It became a joke in the movie Green Card.
Wheaties, I never cared for because I never cared for wheat flakes. They were just
Yeah.
muesli. Yes, muesli.
Muesli. No. I was like I said, I
Wheat
liked
cereals for some
sweeter
reason are just
cereal.
bad. Wheat cereals, I just don't know why it just doesn't have any real flavor to it. I talk about pure wheat cereals such as Wheaties, Muslix, Grape Nuts. It just like, what am I eating?
Yeah, it was like I said, I loved Rice Krispies, a little sugar on there, your milk. Pop, 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 pop. It's like, oh, look, my breakfast is talking to me. Let me see if I can eat them all. And I was a strange child. So it's like, yeah, I'm eating all these Rice Krispies. I want to catch them before they're dead. Got to eat them
Yeah,
while they're
but
alive.
that
It's so
but that made
sweet.
me think about Special K and why I don't like Special K because Special K was a corn wheat blended flake and it just like until they got into like the fruit and berry stuff, then it became palatable. But by itself, no. No, I could not eat a bowl of Special K by itself. It had to be like one of those, you know.
It's not as sugary as some of the other stuff out there, and it is a slightly healthier cereal. So
So is
it's
Bran Chex. Bran Chex had very little sugar up in it, and everything like that.
all
Raisin
I
Bran. Well, Raisin Bran, the sugar was like all over those raisins.
raisins, man. I'm the sweetest raisins ever. Um,
That's how you knew that you was eating Kellogg's versus Post.
yes,
Post had no sugar on those raisins, but Kellogg's, oh my
Kellogg's do.
goodness, man, when they were like drowning in sugar. It was like, yeah, give me that Kellogg's raisin bread. There's a reason why that stuff is like 2 scoops and all we do, yeah. That's all you gonna get, 2 scoops.
you know, but you can tell yourself it was healthier than Super Sugar Crisp because it had raisins in it. Raisins were supposed to be good for you. So
You get sugar on top of sugar. It's like think about it. As a kid, we didn't know that dry grapes it was raisins, and then on top of that, the sugar contents of a grape, let alone raisins, and then they triple dip them in sugar.
Well, I was lucky. I had a uncle that was like, raisins that are just grapes that gave up on life, right? It's like,
So prunes are just plums that gave up on life too.
I actually kind of like prunes. I can't eat a lot of them, but I used to get I forget which brand, but they used to it came in a little plastic canister and you would get these individually wrapped prunes. And
I'm almost thinking about sun-made prunes. It was
it's
something like that.
Sunmade. It's Sunmade. They had them. They were individually. The ones I got came in a canister and they were individually wrapped. When I was pregnant, oh yeah, those were my jam. Sweet enough to to make my sweet tooth happy, but not so sweet to whack my blood sugar. And also help keep you regular.
That's the part that I didn't like. It kept you regular. It kept you regular.
Hey, when you got something inside you, I had a girlfriend that couldn't see the Alien film because she was pregnant when the first one came out and she refused to go see it because she said, yeah, it's about something inside you that kills
She
you
was
when
afraid. She was afraid the baby going to come out and be like, ah!
it just freaked her out and she couldn't watch it anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay. I
Now
saw
you're
this.
making me think about Spaceballs.
Somebody,
I was like, somebody get a doctor. Somebody get a paramedic. Somebody get this man some Pepto Bismol.
and I love his line, oh no, not again. I just love that. I love the fact that he that made the movie for me because usually British actors, unless they're in the Monty Python, um, are very serious about things. And here was this because I've seen him in other things before. And so here is this very serious British actor who was having fun with his image, something that he was known for iconically. And here he was having a little fun with it. It was like, yo, you get down, boy, you go for that. I was down with it. I loved it. And then of course Alan Rickman came and outdid him on that movie on Galaxy Quest. Yeah. He came and
Yes.
kind of outdid him with Galaxy Quest. It's like, holy crap. He just played the crap out of that role. I loved him in Galaxy Quest.
Well,
Um,
I'm keeping my fingers crossed now.
for
Because as of right now, there's going to be a Spaceballs 2.
Oh yeah, I've heard. I'm not sure. I have to admit, while there were a couple of scenes in the first one that I found funny overall, it was one of those movies that I went and saw and it was like, okay, I've seen it. Am I going to, if I have to sit through it again, I'm fast forwarding to my favorite bits and then I'm done. That being said, I don't know if I'll watch number 2. I might watch it out of curiosity, but then again, I might not bother. I haven't sat down. I love Stranger Things, but I have not sat down to watch Stranger Things yet. I will admit it. If y'all want me to sit down and watch Stranger Things and come tell you about it, hit a sister up. Let me know. Otherwise, I may
Don't
not
come
watch
looking
it
for
till the
me
new year.
because Stranger Things has nothing that I really see value in.
Okay.
But then again, I haven't watched episode not the one. It's a series that didn't interest me.
I'm kind of that way about Welcome to Derry. I'm not, and part of me, I don't want to watch Stranger Things because I had said goodbye to the show the last time, and then it's like, but I already said goodbye. Now you want me to come back and say goodbye again? And if I say goodbye again, are you going to come back and do another season? Because that's going to make me angry, Though I will say, the Rats of Witcher Tale um, had a few interesting elements it was interesting to see Dolph Lundgren kind of making fun of the persona that he, like actors like Schwarzenegger and whatnot, have built
Mm-hmm.
their careers on. He's not Geralt. He is an aging drunk witcher, pretty much past his time. And there are things they show you at the beginning of the story that they don't give you a payoff for at the end. So you don't know if there's supposed to be another part to this story, or if they just said, okay, that's the end of the movie, we're done. And you're sitting there going, but wait a minute, hello, there's this whole part of the story you didn't tell us. And because of that, it was like, okay, I just sat here for an hour and a half. And I'm sorry, Dolph Lundgren doesn't come until a little later into the film. And I kind of felt to some degree he was poorly used. Yeah, he's supposed to be the big strong guy gone to sea. So I could see where he was sort of trying to, understanding where he is in that genre, and moving himself in and saying, well, hey, this is less about working on my physicality and more about my ability to act. And all in all, I thought he did an admirable job, but like I said, I was disappointed at the end. Game of Thrones. Okay. I will say I did lose interest in Game of Thrones. But also because the story bothered me. One of the things about Game of Thrones, I didn't watch it.
What's ST? No, Stranger Things. Never mind. I figured it out.
You know,
The Walking Dead was okay until they started spinning off, until they had all these other spin-off shows. That's when I lost interest in Walking Dead. Game of Thrones, never had interest in it. Stranger Things, never had interest in it. I did see Squid Game all the way through. And I'm still mad. I'm still mad at that ending.
Okay.
But it did set up they did in the series where they could have done a third season.
I really hated the Game of Thrones because when you think about all that pain, all that destruction, because a brother and sister couldn't stop banging each other. All that pain and death and destruction because these two couldn't stay out of each other's pants. Because that's at the heart of this story, is this secret. When they push a boy, this hero pushes this boy out of the window because he's on his father's land playing around and finds them banging in the barn. They're guests. It's not his fault that you were in his family's barn and then you push him out the window in the hopes that he'll die. Instead, you cripple the boy because of this secret. The more I watched it, the more I hated it. The more I hated Cersei and what's his name. And the more I hated them, the harder it got to watch that show. It wasn't I love to hate them. It's like, no, this is ridiculous. All this suffering, all this pain, all this death stemming from this situation. And everything just kind of went out from there. And they killed Sean Bean. Hello? You don't kill Sean Bean. Unless, of course, you're Peter Jackson. And it was written in the book, so you kind of had to follow it. But still, they killed Sean Bean. Never get over that.
Why do you want me to rant about Squid Games? Because Squid Game, like I said, the second season set up so much stuff that it could have been a third season, and it could have been an interesting third season because of what ended up happening at the very end. But they destroyed too much of the story for the ending anyway.
Well, we've only got 4 minutes left anyhow.
All right,
So it's
the short.
8:56. You you can give us the short version of a rant if you like.
I'm just going to spoil the ending.
Ooh, okay. That'll
So,
because I've never
pretty
seen it.
much, this is how Squid Game ends. For those who watched season one, you know, Guillaume won it. He won it. He won what is equivalent to over $1 billion.
Okay.
He was a billionaire in U.S.
Okay.
money. In U.S. money, he would be, equated to like a billionaire. He could have gone ahead with his life and everything here after the facilitator, after he figured out that the facilitator was going to die and everything, who he befriended, and found out that he befriended the facilitator. The facilitator was trying to teach him the so-called life lesson about what Squid Game was about. That people going to bet on you one way or the other, that some people are just not meant for the proper life that most other people have. People are just going to do the most stupidest things and just expect out of luck to have things happen. So facilitator dies. He got his money. He was about to go and see his daughter in the United States, and then he saw somebody else getting courted for being the next Squid Game. So season one ends with him not getting on the plane and contacting the people again to put them back into the game.
Because he
End
didn't
of
want
season
someone
two.
else to go through it, or he just didn't want anybody else to be the winner.
No, he didn't want anybody else to go through it because, again, he still feels that people are not like horses to be bet on to improve their lives.
Okay, kind of like the original Death Race with
Right.
Carradine, with David
With
Carradine.
Frankenstein. In a way, he was not a quote unquote champion like Frankenstein, but it was one of the few people that won. Long story short about season two, we finally found out that Frontman was one of the few people that also won Squid Game, and he's running the show now.
Oh, great.
So Frontman allows them back into the game and everything, and he actually joins in. So it's Guillaume, Frontman, and everybody else that's in the game. Frontman was trying to teach him the lesson that the facilitator taught him. Is that when it really comes down to it, the only person that you can always trust is yourself. And sometimes you have to do the most darkest things to make certain that you take care of self.
Here's a question. They're remaking The Running Man.
They already did. It's already out.
Okay, I
out.
haven't seen it out.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting for it to come to streaming because I want to really sit down because of the simple fact that they do all 30 days. They finally made Ben Richards a everyday guy instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was part of the military and blah 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 blah. It's more like the novel, and I wanted to see how well they stick to the novel in this version without being overkill about television.
That's Richard Dawson made that first film. Richard Dawson, he was over the top, but I know a lot of people who are like, that's why they love.
Who do you love and who loves you? Killian! Yes!
Richard Dawson just, you going to bed? Okay, you're done. All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
He was letting me know that he's done. But yeah, Richard Dawson made that movie. Schwarzenegger, and he needed that. It's not that Schwarzenegger, especially then as an actor, was limited.
He needed a foil in Richard Dawson.
He
Killian, I'll be back. Only in a rerun, my friend. Only in a rerun.
But I'm saying, he's one of those actors you have to cast well around him, or you don't have a movie. Kindergarten Cop worked because they were smart. They cast Linda Hunt in that movie, and they had those kids, and it was perfect because it put him in the fish out of water situation. And he's like Dolly Parton. If he's got good actors around, and those kids were good, they were good little guys.
I still feel Twins was an underrated movie.
I do too. I love Twins. Twins made me laugh. I thought it was really interesting and fun, but like I said, I much prefer I much preferred Kindergarten Cop. But like I said, I'm a Linda Hunt fan. And it was I just loved, you could tell when they had scenes together, she brought him up. She got him to come up to her level. She didn't have to go down. She made him come up.
Just to address this comment, I don't think it was Tom Arnold. I think it was his co-star that really made True Lies what True Lies was supposed to be.
You mean Jamie Lee Curtis?
Mm-hmm.
They were
her being completely clueless of what he did for a living, only to find out that he was a super spy, made that work.
I also found out there was a blooper in the movie that they kept in when she's doing the dance. And he's sitting there and she doesn't realize it's him. There's a part where they didn't tell him where she's supposed to fall because she's not supposed to be a professional, so she's supposed to make mistakes. And so she does the fall and he gets up. Like he wants to get up and help her. And they didn't totally pull it out. You see her go down and you see him like he's going to get up and it's like, okay. And then they cut it. Took the shot from another angle, but it was like, oh, okay. Because I guess she'd done such a good job that when she fell, he thought she had slipped and fallen for real.
And hurt herself for real. It was a prep fall.
She totally sold it. And the Oscars, when they had her come down one-handed off that rig, because it's like, and the women were really into it because the women understood what it would take to hang one-handed off. Even if it was only 20 feet, she's still hanging one-handed off that rig. And you could see her muscles in her arm flexing. So that even though she was wired, they couldn't totally wire her in because they had to touch her down, and then she had to come up and do the thing. So they couldn't put her in a total harness. So you could see Girlie was hanging there. I'm like, dang. Girl, I hope they paid you enough for that.
But again, it's just like for some reason she brought the best out of him for that type of a movie. Yeah, Tyler Arnold was funny. Don't get me wrong, Tyler Arnold was funny, but with Jamie Lee Curtis, that really helped made True Lies True Lies.
Well, also I think if you think about some of his better films, it's usually the women that he's most getting the energy from. Because like I said, with Kindergarten Cop, it's Linda Hunt. With the first Terminator, again, it's the woman who put that cookie down.
Leia got told that a lot, or she told people that a lot now. Put that cookie down.
But
we keep forgetting about Jingle All the Way because Sinbad did a good job with him too.
Yeah, like I said, it is the co-star, whoever his top co-star is. It's got to be somebody who's going to bring him up. If you just let him coast, what made Predator was the Predator because the actors he was acting with were not pushing him. Carl Weathers was like, I'm collecting a paycheck. And so it was like it was the Predator that drove the film. It was him and the Predator. And those are the scenes that he does the best in. But just hanging with the dudes, if they're not shooting stuff up, the acting in that is a
Was
bit
not
flat.
good.
Yeah, it really isn't good. Jingle All the Way, Sinbad. Sinbad's like, no. You, like I said, he does really. He's like Dolly Parton. If he's got a co-star who's like, no, you can't be down there. You got to come up here to this level. This is the level. You got to come up here because we are not going to work together unless you're coming up to this level. And
That's
when he
why I
gets
love
somebody
Twins
who
so much.
does
Because Danny DeVito did that in Twins for him.
they like I said, when he's got a co-star that says this is the level, it's not down here, it's up here. And if you want to be good in this, I'm not going to let you go down here. Because if you go down there and I'm up here, I'm outshine you. This ain't going to be your movie no more. It's going to be my show. When he's got a co-star who will do that, he's great. But when he doesn't, outside of the action, he just falls flat.
That's one of the reasons why I believe Running Man was like, if it wasn't for Richard Dawson playing a great villain,
yeah,
that movie would have fell flat. It would have fell very, very flat because, again, for the majority of it, it was kind of up in the air who the true villain was. Was it the person that Richard Dawson was on the phone with, or Richard Dawson himself?
Yeah. But he plays it in such a way that, he is so over the top and so he's delicious in that role. And it's just, I don't know. I was more interested in his character than I was Schwarzenegger. It's like, oh my God, what's he going to do next? I was more
interested in how he kept the illusion going. That was the key thing, because the city itself is like people still lived in the city where the action took place.
Yeah.
There were still underground bedding that was happening in the city where there's still people living there.
Death Race was very similar. They went through areas where people lived, the old folks' home, and
But there was points, there was points for killing people. That was the whole thing. But the whole point of the thing was David Carradine's character Frankenstein winning the race for the so-called current president to maintain his power. That's why I love the ending so much when Frankenstein killed the president.
Yes. Like
the ending with justification, and then we finally found out that it's like he's no longer mangled and he was beautiful and all this other stuff. It's like I went through too many of these things for a person like you to be president.
Yeah.
No, it's like you got too corrupted.
Oh my goodness!
But I'll never forget Death Race. I'll never forget Death Race because of Machine Gun Joe the Terrible, aka Sylvester Stallone, in one of his weakest roles ever. It's like, oh, I'm going to be this tough thug driver. It's like, you can't bust a grape in a fruit fight. How are you coming off as tough? Especially after this was after the movie where he got beat. He got the brakes beat off him by whatchamacallit. I can't even think of his name.
And the Out of Towners.
Yeah.
He tries to rob what's his name, who was the original Felix Under in the Odd Couple movie. And
Jack Lemmon.
Jack Lemmon. He tries to mug Jack Lemmon in the park, and Jack Lemmon whoops his ass. And that every time I see that scene, I just fall over laughing because it's early Stallone, and I'm thinking that has got to hurt, because every time he's probably ran into Jack Lemmon, it's like, I kicked your ass on film, right?
Well, that would make me laugh at Machine Gun Joe the Terrible, because after that, it's like you can't see him as a tough, thuggish type guy. He was typecast to be a tough, thuggish type guy. He gets beat up. In the next movie, he's the tough, thuggish guy. It's like, oh, this wimp.
It's like, and it's funny. It's interesting because I have never seen an interview where anybody's brought that up to him. I have yet to see an interview that's like, yeah, so tell me, what was it like having Jack Lemmon whoop your ass on camera? Just once I want to see an interview where somebody asks him that. Except now I'm kind of not caring because
no, I would still ask, but I would ask it tongue in cheek as to get him to laugh.
Now
I wouldn't take it seriously. I wouldn't take my machine gun Joe the Terrible questions seriously. I wouldn't want that here. But all the stuff that he did, the one that I would take seriously, and I'm not certain if you remember, this is probably going to be the last thing that we talk about here before we close the show. You remember the TV show called The Contenders?
I remember the name. My brain is
it was a show that he executive produced with Sugar Ray Leonard, and I forgot the other boxer.
Oh, okay.
That was a very good series.
I never watched it.
Surprisingly enough, it was a very good series because they was looking for the next greatest boxer, and they had all these different boxers of different weight classes, and it's like one big competition to help their career along, to help them build a career where they could go into the bigger prize fight.
Oh, okay.
There was a contender belt that they actually was fighting for, and they was training and they were going through all the different things and stuff that they had to learn. So they had like actual professional boxers come in.
Ooh. I should have
and it was weird because this was, if people who watch me on front of desk, this was Tough Enough before Tough Enough became a thing for MTV and WWE.
Okay.
This happened way before then, when professional boxing was still a thing where it was a big cash draw and everything to that magnitude. The contender champion had like a match in the MGM for the championship. They would had an actual match in the MGM hotel and everything. It was built up to be the biggest prize fight of their lives. I believe they walked away with close to like $250,000 for winning that fight. They got to it and won.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, it really supposed to set them up for a legitimate career in boxing.
I should have watched it.
Because like after you went through this, all the top fight promoters, all the top agents and everything were invited there for that fight. And during that whole process, they invited certain ones there to look in on them and everything.
I wish I'd watched that thing, because the last boxer I seriously watched fight was Sugar Ray when he started fighting professionally after the Olympics. I first saw Sugar Ray when he was fighting in the Olympics and he won the medal. And it was like, dang, dude is good. He good looking. I got to watch him. And I love Sugar Ray. He was one of my favorite boxers.
And he was one of the few that never got punch drunk. He came close. He got concussed a couple of times, but he never truly got punch drunk.
But I keep forgetting, and it's so funny. He's one of those boxers where you don't pay as much attention to his opponent, because I still can't remember who he was boxing. And he's up there. He's got his guard up, and the dude can't touch him. At one point, he just drops his guard like, and the guy comes out. He's like, ah. It was like, oh my goodness, dude, did you have to? That's just like, you might as well just pull this drawers down and laugh, because that's about the same thing. Like, can't touch this.
Well, again, it's like you have to think about it. Back then, you had him, you had Ali in his prime. It's like, okay, I'm about to be in this corner. Okay, dodge, weave, dodge, weave, dodge, weave, dodge, weave, spin around. I'm on the other side of you. What are you going to do now? You can't hit me.
Whack him in the back of the head. Hey, what you looking at?
But that was the heyday of boxing, when boxing was at its best, and what the Contender tried to do was try to relive those things. Even though, you know, Stallone was the executive producer, he was still during that age, you know, was during that age where he was still doing Rocky and all the other movies. I think
And
it
he was still training in boxing, because he didn't just do it.
Mhm.
He studied it. It was
Mhm.
boxing was something he was into, and then, you know, this was the script he wrote.
And then teaming up with Sugar Ray to be kind of like, you know, the hands on. It's like, yes, I was a champion. It's like I beat Roberto Duran, I beat Tommy Hearns, I beat all of these
Yes.
top contenders. It's not an easy road to get to where I'm at.
Yeah.
Now,
You know,
I'm surprised that I believe this was an NBC product, that NBC did the Contender. I could
this
be
sounds
wrong
like
here.
something NBC would do, either NBC or ABC.
No, it was NBC, because if it
Okay.
was ABC, one of the things I wish that ABC would bring back, or I should say, one of the things I wish Disney would bring back, is the wide world of sports. I
And
need
along
my
with
Jim McKay talking about the agony of defeat. I'm sorry.
the thrill of victory,
Victory and the
and then
agony
that
of defeat.
shot of the toboggan slamming it. For those of you who are not old enough to know, this was at a time when you could get killed doing Olympic sports. Nowadays, they have all sorts of safety regulations and guardrails. Back then, and I forget who it was, he survived it just barely. This tobogganist, because he's coming around that bend and he misjudges the curve. And I can't remember if he went too high up or too low, but he, instead of coming off that curve and coming onto the flat side of the track and going on, he slams into the wall, and takes part of the wall with him. And Wild World of Sports, when they did the Thrill of Victory, I think it was boxing, Ali or somebody was winning a match.
I forgot. It was something like Golden Gloves boxing, or some
And
type of.
and then the agony of defeat, that poor man in that toboggan
The
just
two-man
plowing.
toboggan, you see he'll come out of the two-man toboggan, hit the side, and kept going.
Oh my goodness, he took so much of that wall with them. It was a wonder they got out alive.
But people don't realize, in a two-man toboggan, the toboggan is going at speeds over 100 miles per hour. It's not
It
an
was
easy thing. That's one of the reasons why two-man toboggan and the luge were dangerous sports back then, because you're going at 100+ miles per hour, and you have literally fraction of a second to make a judgment call as far as turning one way or the other. And if you mess up, it's like,
oh, you were
you're
done.
gone. You're gone. It's just like,
There were so many Olympic contenders depending on your sport, especially like the luge, toboggan, where people were as likely to die or become permanently mangled as they were to win. It was
mhm.
it was, if you were lucky if you just weren't fast enough. But if you were, and I've seen toboggan races, because I used to love those Winter Olympics, where the guy was leading, but like I said, there's that one miscalculation, because the guy in the back is just there for stabilization. The guy in the front is the one who's steering.
Yeah, the guy in front is always steering. The guy in the back,
He's
he's the
just
one
there,
that gets you started off with that hard push, and he then jumps on, and he's holding on for dear life.
and his weight is stabilizing, trying to stabilize as much as you can. It's the guy in the front who's steering. And like I said, a little too much on that curve up or too down. And, if you're lucky, you might flip. And toboggans are made differently than they used to be, because it's easier for them to duck down in them. It used to be their heads were above the toboggans, which meant if that sucker flipped and went upside down some feet, they would shut off the tape. would cut the feed so you wouldn't see what they had to pull out of there because it would not be pretty. And I won't. Yeah, back in the day, sports was deadly. You know?
Well, that's the reason why I like Wide World of Sports, because you had the boxing, you had the billiards, you had the darts, you had the luge, the tobogganing, you had the figure skating. It depends on what was going on, what was the major championship going on
There
during
was
that time.
also a weekly boxing for a while. They also had a weekly boxing show, just like Monday Night Football. They would they did a weekly boxing or something. You know, I think it was Golden Globes or something where they had weekly boxing for a while with the lesser fights, and then they got rid of those, which is kind of sad because some of those matches were really good.
Actually,
Yes.
a lot of the matches were great. They were great, but the thing about it, the thing that makes me sad is that Wide World of Sports was my first introduction to boxers such as Sugar Ray, Mike Tyson. They used to have a lot of the Golden Glove boxers on there, so but that's going back into the 70s, though.
But
The late
also
70s.
Tyson, I think Tyson helped turn me off from boxing because back in the day when you had the Listons, the Alis, the Sugar Rays, boxers were. It wasn't just the boxing; there was also a bit of showmanship in it. And then Tyson came on the scene, and it was like, okay, he incapacitated his opponent in 10 seconds.
Right.
30 seconds in, this guy, they can't get, they're scraping this guy up off the mat. It just became animalistic. It's like wrestling. I got to a point where I would only watch Greco-Roman wrestling during the Olympics.
They had that. They had sumo. They even had karate. But I remember what my Saturdays used to be like back in the day, because
because after American Bandstand, you had the Wild World of Sports.
No, it was one other thing that came on before Wild World of Sports, and people keep forgetting about that because I think they kind of intertwine to one another.
Okay, because I was about to
after
say,
American Bandstand goes off, you had ABC presents ABC presents the Professional Bowlers Tour.
Yeah. Okay.
So you had the Professional Bowlers Tour going into the Wide World of Sports on Saturday. That's if there's not a game of the week for baseball or football.
Yeah, you don't have baseball or football, depending on who's playing baseball or football, because WGN had syndication for the Cubs.
Right. Right, but it's like the game of the week would have been like if the Cubs were playing the Dodgers, and they paid for the rights for the Cubs to be on ABC as opposed to WGN.
Yeah,
and sometimes they might be on both channels.
Yeah, I was about to say, or what they would do is WGN TV wouldn't have it, but WGN Radio. So you would still get Brickhouse because he would then do the radio broadcast. Because Jack was like, I'm gonna get paid.
The one thing that I remember more so than anything else, that's one of the reasons why I didn't like this time of year, because you had college football and you had Keith Giffen with college football.
Except college football has become, the game has become secondary because a lot of people go. And it's so funny, what used to just be the halftime show has become, instead of like a 50-man band and maybe 15 cheerleaders, you got a couple of hundred people on the field, especially with your HBCUs. It's like production values are off the chain. And a lot of people now go, they couldn't care about the game. They just want to see the drum corps.
Again,
They
one
want
of
to
the
see the
reasons
drum
why we
line.
have the Chicago Classic up here was the extenuating circumstances of the Battle of the Bands that was halftime. People did not care about who really won between, what was it, Grambling State and LSU. People went to the Bayou Classic to see the Battle of the Bands. It was just that, it wasn't just HBCUs. It was just something about Southern States Battle of the Bands, especially with more of the predominantly black colleges or a heavy population of black students where they had big bands. They would go at it.
Oh yeah. I saw a British dude watching, I think it was Grambling, a recent performance, and he couldn't, it's like, are those the same people just switching? And then somebody, I guess he was watch. I saw the recording, but when he was watching it live, he had people, fans, and go, no, 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 that's not the same musicians. See, that's different folks. That's different folks, and he
Mm-hmm.
was just like gobsmacked. He was like, is anybody paying attention to the game?
Nope.
They're like, no, at least half that audience came for the performance and might leave after the halftime show.
Mm-hmm. But again, those performances, like you said, had very good production value. Again, we would not have a movie like Drumline if that culture wasn't there.
Yeah.
Drumline is the personification of Battle of the Bands and everything to that magnitude. And I can't even think of the guy's name. The guy's name that was the university's music director. Talking about, well, hit him with the flight of Bumblebee. I was like, that's not what they're trying to do. It's like that wasn't the whole point of Battle of the Bands. Like, yeah, you are, you're still trained with the classical stuff. We get it. But when it came to what the fans want with the football, you have to be more up to date. You have to give the fans what they want. There's a time to be, classical, and there's a time to, put on a show. And sometimes you could do both, put on a show with some of the classical stuff if you figure out a way to blend it in.
Yeah, but I watched that and it was like, okay, I didn't realize how many of those kids, because my training in music was classical. And so the first time I ever saw those drum corps, it's like, oh, they wouldn't last. These kids wouldn't last. And then of course you learn about what their training is. It's like, dang, that's good to know. These kids are, in other words, there's some serious musicianship going on. But it's like, okay, considering what they have to do, yeah, you have to know what you're doing. And pulling up the classics because control, especially if you've had to play the flugelhorn or if you're playing the flugelhorn, if you're playing the tuba or the Sousa being able to play the third movement of the unfinished symphony is like key for some of that, because you have to understand the difference between just blaring out a note and power and control, and still being able to make that bass feel full. I played baritone sax last year, band and orchestra, so that's the only reason I know that. But it is now 9:30,
and you gotta go eat and do whatever
I
you
gotta
gotta
go
do.
eat. Especially after this week, having my 6-foot toddler faint on me after getting his blood test. He just, poor baby. He just like, I thought he was okay until the minute he went down and I had to catch him. that was fun.
Don't tell me you had one of these. It's like, okay, Erity's okay. It's like, oh no, not again.
Well, they told me don't let him eat before you come in.
Mm-hmm.
So he ate the night before, but he didn't eat that morning. And I told him, I said, I'll take you to McDonald's and get you whatever you want after we're done. And she took 4 tubes. I thought they would maybe take 1 or 2. They took 4 tubes.
Oh yeah,
They wanted a
he
complete.
needed nourishment right then and there.
Yeah, I brought some Fig Newtons with me
Hmm.
to let him, and the tech was really nice. This was at an Access Health Center clinic, and she brought out a cup of cold water for him to sip
Hmm.
on because she saw me. He went down, and I caught him, and then I'm holding him while he's trying to get himself back together. And she's just looking at me like, "You can do this." It's like I'm the mommy, you know. That's just it.
You did the baby or dinosaurs. I'm the mama, gotta love me.
Not the yeah, not the mama, not the mama. I used to chase John, going, "God love me," but I need to. Can you come kill him for me? I
Why?
took him to McDonald's. I said, "You can have what you want." He wanted a medium hot chocolate and a sausage McMuffin with egg and cheese.
Okay.
I got myself a little hash brown. Got home, realized I was going to have to salt our sidewalk because it wasn't because it had started coming down heavy by
Hmm.
the time we got home. So it's like, well, let me get out there and salt the sidewalk because our sidewalk is clear, but it's like, okay, the temperature's going to drop. Let me salt the sidewalk so we don't have black ice on the sidewalk in the morning. I come back up. He has eaten my hash brown. Everybody thought that was cute. My sister won't kill him. My mama won't kill him. Nobody will kill this child for me. He just
Wait, wait,
down
wait.
there.
So he ate your hash brown?
He ate my hash brown. And my sister's like, that's your fault because you should have bought two. I asked them, did you want hash brown? No. I said, are you sure? I'm sure. And then he eats my hash brown. My mouth was all ready for that. I'm in the cold, tossing rock salt. And I come inside. It's like, yeah, put a little
You up here
ketchup on
like,
that hash
yeah,
brown.
I got me a somewhat heated hash brown waiting for me to eat.
I
And you
got
come there, you
spiked.
got nothing but an empty sleeve.
And he just looked at me like, my heart. Oh, Beanie only steals my food or her godfathers. Well,
Well, Beanie also steals your comic books too and puts it in her box and claims it as her own.
okay. They had the Grinch Big Mac meal, but he didn't see it was breakfast time. So I don't know if he could have got that Grinch Big Mac meal because sometimes they don't serve everything at breakfast time. So
Was
McDonald's,
it after 10:30?
no, no.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. So we wouldn't have been able to get it. Um,
Door attacks.
I will probably, because I have to take him back to the clinic on Monday so we can go over the results with his doctor. So I will probably have to take him to McDonald's again. And by the time the appointment is like 9:40, so by the time we get out of there, it'll be 10. And we can see about getting him a Grinch meal if he wants his Grinch Mac. Okay, see, he doesn't always do that. He just, or I'll get something and then realize it's already been noshed on.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I said,
kind of like the running between my fiance and her grandmother.
your
She would
fiance
do
grandma's
that
food.
to her White Castle burgers, take like a bite out of it and turn it a certain way and put it back in.
My sister used to do that when she was little, when she was about 2 or 3 and she finally got teeth to work. My mother used to put out in the holidays a big bowl of fruit, apples, pears, oranges. And Lisa would pick up an apple and she'd take a bite out of it and then put it back with the bite turned down. And people would come over, oh, hey, can I get a piece of fruit? My mom would go, oh, okay, sure. You pick up an apple or a pear, and it's got a bite taken out of it. And for the longest time, my mother thought it was me. Finally, And I kept saying, it's not me. I'm not doing, don't lie to me, child smack. And then one day we hear, and it's crying. Lisa's picked up an orange.
She did, why was she trying to bite into an orange?
Because she didn't realize that an orange wasn't like an apple or a pear or a she just picked it up and thought, oh, this is like an apple or pear. I'll bite into it. And she bit into it, and it was like, ah. And then my mother came out, because I was in the kitchen. I was in the kitchen helping her with something. And my mother goes into the living room, and Lisa's standing there crying. and I kept saying, look at the size of the bite. That's a much smaller bite than I can make. And my mother insisted, no, that's you. You're lying. You're not telling the truth. It was like Big Bird all over again. Mm-hmm. And, then she saw my sister do it, and she realized, oh, and do you think my mother said, I'm sorry? Not once. Nope. And it was like, hello, I didn't do it. She said, but you probably did something you deserve that smack for. That was parenting back in the 60s. Parents didn't say in the 50s.
No,
60s,
they just said that was just for the one thing that I didn't catch you for.
Yeah, you obviously did something I didn't catch you for. So that's why you got that. God was, that was God getting justice on you. It's like, you just too petty to say you're sorry. And I do not know why my nose is bugging me, but my allergies are up.
So it's time to say goodbye on that note.
Okay. You want me? Okay. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Leia and Beanie. Hugs, Beanie. If Lils and Beanie hugs. Thank you guys for being here. Whether you see us live, whether you see us recorded, we appreciate you being here. Come back and see us next week. We'll have more stuff to, brag about. And maybe Cliff will be here and he can get mad at me about That's because you were here. Okay. But I'm Elaine at Elaine Haygood here on YouTube. I actually will be putting out a video next week because I've been busy working, and I will have hopefully 2 videos or maybe 3, depending on how long they are and how I can speak and how well I can speed them up. But I'm gonna get a couple of videos done for the holiday, so there'll be new stuff, and of course my website, lenscaponline.com. Go down to the contact us page. Drop a sister a note. I will get back to you, even if it's like, why you bugging me? Okay? Y'all take care. We'll see you next week. Behave yourselves. Don't bite no oranges. Bye.
And that brings us to our sponsor for this show, which is Jeffrey Hayes and Planet Fire Graphics. If you have a book that needs a cover, a graphic novel that needs a cover, a comic book that needs a cover, Jeffrey Hayes is the person that you need to call. Why? Because you want an award-winning graphic artist to do your cover to bring people to your table, to start asking, hey, what that book's about? Because it just appealed to me from way across the way. It just something about it just screamed to me. That's what Jeffrey Hayes brings to you for each and every cover that he does. If you don't believe me, take a look at this video.
You've worked hard, great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasma Fire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
You've seen the graphics, you've seen the covers. Have Jeffrey Hayes do your next one. Just contact him at plasmafiregraphics.com or his Facebook group, Plasma Fire Graphics. As far as I'm concerned, I will be back here Saturday. And Saturday is going to be ranting time. Oh, yes. We're going to have a good conversation. We're going to have some ranting. Why? Because I'm about to get ready to talk about why this whole collectible status on the comic book industry is kind of hurting comic books as a whole. But you have to tune in to find out what I'm going to say. But until then, live life, grow, and be well. And unlike our founder, I don't care if you wash your hands. I should say our founder, Brian K. Morris, who is still out there writing and doing his thing here. Shout outs to him. Shout outs to Clyde. Shout outs to Brian. And shout outs to Eric, the original 4. I was number 5. So I'm trying to keep things alive here. But unlike him, I don't care if you wash your hands, but never, and I do mean never, apologize for being awesome. I'll catch you here next Thursday for another episode of Comic Book Spectrum. Good night, and so long.